Kim bizga suikastini yuborasiz? Fikrim yozing.
Approach to grammar, conceptual foundation of grammar in cognitive linguistics. Okay, of course, we have talked about grammar approaches in previous lectures. Of course, and at the same time, when we say about, start speaking about the structure, in your bachelor degree, you have gained some knowledge concerning theoretical aspect of language. So today we will discuss. We will, for example, talk about approaches of grammar. So please, I will ask you to look at our presentation over here, and what is grammar is given over here, and we will read it, and then of course we'll discuss. Okay, grammar is often thought of as an aspect, abstract rule governing sentence structure, word formation, and meaning. Okay, pay attention. What is told over here about the grammar? So, of course, when we talk about structure, it is connected with a set of rules, but they are abstract, and of course, it is connected with a sentence structure, word structure, even we have rules which help us to, for example, make words with the help of the phoneme. So they are all connected with the rules. These rules are investigated in cognitive linguistics. So traditional linguists have developed different theories to explain how these grammatical rules emerge and how they are structured in mind. In cognitive linguistics, however, the understanding of grammar extends beyond rigid rule-based system and incorporates conceptual process grounded in human experience, perception, and cognition. Of course, in traditional linguistics, you have gained much about the sentence structure, and of course, you were told that sentence structure is something subject-verb-object relationship, but according to cognitive linguistics, we understand it a little bit in different ways. For example, concepts usually have relationship with each other, and it forms the conceptual structure of the language. And it is very important if we, for example, talk about that. I can show you, explain it in this way. One. So you see, for example, it can be layer of the language, but there should be another layer which is connected with the conceptual structure. And of course, it would be reality. And we have understanding concerning the reality. You see? But our just conceptual process is not only connected with the understanding of human being, but at the same time it is connected with human experience, perception, and cognition. We usually perceive information, we get information about reality. If it's a reality, we get information about it, and it would be perception of that. Then we, for example, try to realize what is that information is about, data is about, then we comprehend it, and then produce new, for example, information, and we share our understanding with others. You see, they are interconnected, and of course, usually in previous classes we have talked about anthropocentrism. Of course, all of them is connected with the human need. Human need. Human need. So human need, it can be material need and biological, how to say, material, biological one, and spiritual, how we function, what should we do, or what shouldn't we do. So in that way, so you see it becomes like a earth-shaped kind of form, which help us to understand the relationship between them. Okay.
X, X. Поставь X. Думала в чайник. Чистый, думала в чайник поставить. Она что не
Yes. Okay. You see, so when we talk about conceptual foundation of the grammar, pay attention how it is connected. Okay, it is connected with the meaning, thought, and the language used. Of course, again, when we talk about the meaning, thought, and language used, when we are in a certain situation, we realize, try to understand what's going on, and according to that, we collect the data, we store it in our mind, and it would be kind of meaningful issue. And the thought, of course, we comprehend it, and then after this thought, share it with others, and they are positively interconnected, and language used. Of course, in our language, we try to, for example, we try to use meaningful language. Okay. If we go further, pay attention. Here is a tradition. In traditional linguistics, we understand grammar quite differently in comparison to the concrete approach to grammar. In traditional linguistics, we usually talk about the formal system of the meaning, but in content linguistics, it's here the universal principle, a deep structure that independent of meaning and experience. It means that, for example, we know that here is a subject, predicate, and object relation, and according to the traditional linguistics, for example, we analyze each word over there, and the relation of these words is investigated by the scientists, and we say that the structure of the language works in that way. But in cognitive linguistics, it works quite differently, because in cognitive linguistics, first of all, anthropocentric perspective plays crucial role over there. Just human, human himself, for example, is a doer of an action, then he expresses own attitude toward the second object, and you see, the main important thing over there is that human cognition, how we realize and how we express our attitude toward the reality. not the only linguistic, the relation of the linguistic meaning. It's human being in the center of the universe, in the center of the language. And grammar and conceptualization. So what is given over here? At the heart of functional linguistics is the belief that grammar reflects our conceptualization of the world. Language is seen as a tool for expressing meaning, and grammatical structures are the cognitive means by which humans organize and communicate those meanings. So you see that according to our understanding, according to the traditional linguistic, meaning and the form is not the same unit, but in cognitive linguistics, meaning plays crucial role, because when we start uttering the speech, we want to convey meaning. But how we convey the meaning? With the help of the lexical unit. Pay attention. If we say, I see a cat over there, all these words, I see a cat, they have their form. Before the uttering that, in our mind goes the process of conceptualization. Those usually concepts, in our mind, we, for example, conceptualize that notion and we connect each word with the second one. Yeah. Then it moves, then it goes through the language. Then we use lexical unit in order to convey those meaning. For that reason, it is very important. Okay, cognitive linguists such as George Lakoff and Roland Lanker emphasize that grammar cannot be divorced from the perception, bodily experience, and context. Of course, if you pay attention, George Lakoff said that we cannot realize the language without bodily experience, without perception of human being, and of course cultural context. What does it mean? For example, when we want to say something, we need culture. For example, we talk in our speech, we talk what about the cultural issues, what we eat, what we wear, where usually do we go, and our everyday life. We usually talk about our everyday life. You see, it is cultural context, bodily experience. Just bodily experience is well connected with our actions, what we usually do. For example, human being is not able to go through the wall or to go through the door. You see, it should be open. So it shows it is connected with the human body, and that bodily experience plays a crucial role in the language. Perception. If you talk about the perception, people perceive reality differently. For example, if usually you can look at some photos or pictures over there. For example, it looks like the butterfly. No, it looks like a flower. But if you approach to the for example, flower, it will fly. So what does it mean? You are perceiving it as a flower, but in reality, it is butterfly. You see, but another person can see that reality in a direct way, but just looking at that thing, possibly you perceive that as an butterfly from the first sight. Okay, you see, well, that's George Lakoff mentioned about these three issues: just perception, bodily experience, and cultural context. For instance, when we use a special language like the book is on the table, we are expressing the conceptualization of the relationship between object in space. This conceptualization relies on spatial reasoning and our ability to represent spatial relationship cognitively. The grammar of the sentence reflects our mental image of how one object is located in the relation to another. Again, you see, here is given another example. So, if the book is on the table, according to our spatial reasoning, we understand that book is on the table. It is connected with the location. So if we move to the example which is given over here, pay attention. Okay, so he walked into the room. Involves movement, event, the notion is that directionality are conceptualized. So pay attention. Here the subject, he walked in the predicate into the room. Room is an object. So into is just walking show the motion of human being of the, for example, speaker. Doer of an action. He is a doer of an action. Walking is a motion, just action of a person. The third one, direction. For example, it is moving into the room. So, into shows the direction of the action, of the motion. The room is an object. It is understanding how we should realize motion. So, she gave him the book. Involves a transfer of possession, which relies on the cognitive conceptualization of causality, agency, and possession. Of course, she gave him a book. It means, for example, that book belongs to the she, to the subject. Then she is giving her possession to the second person. So it is pay attention what is given over here. In complex linguistics, these conceptualizations are not simply part of meaning. They are basis for the structure of grammatical construction. You see that everything over there, subject, motion, action, motion, the object, for example, that particles which show the direction, they are all connected with our basic structure of the grammar. In our minds, we have those units, we may say, in our mind we have that concept and we connect that concept, conceptualize that concept in certain order, and we construct the structure, grammatical structure. Next slide is connected with the rule of embodiment in grammar. So, complex linguistics emphasizes the embodied nature of the language, arguing that our understanding of grammar is grounded in our physical experience and perception. Embodiment refers to the idea that the structure of language reflects the body's interaction with the world. Human perception, motor skills, and bodily actions influence the way we organize and construct linguistic form. Again, embodiment of the embodied nature of the language should be emphasized. Of course, you see, again, here with the human perception, motor skills, and bodily action influence the way we organize the structure linguistic. It means that, again, we start with the perception. Perception, as I have mentioned, for example, our mind start understand the world, get the understanding concerning the reality, and you know that here's a 5 sense perception. That 5 sense perception help us to collect the data concerning the reality. It is perception. So motor skills and bodily action, of course, in your mind they have a part of the brain which sends signal to your whole body, to your hand, food, and it sends signal, and then you will start what? Action, bodily action. And that usually then after doing something, you start thinking over organizing the linguistic kind of structure or sentence structure. So you may say, I kick the ball. In the first process goes in your mind. Then if you want to utter the speech, over there, you will choose certain kind of lexical unit. I and kick the ball. In that way, we construct the sentence, and it will be structure of the sentence. One common example of this is the idea that spatial method was like our understanding of abstract concept. In sentence like she climbed the corporate ladder, climbing is a metaphorical extension of a spatial experience. So we use bodily experience and movement as model for the understanding abstract social and professional advancement. So, of course, pay attention to the verbs. Those verbs can be used in order to express our emotion, but at the same time, it can be direct kind of expressive, or it can be metaphorically that our emotion expressed metaphorically, and it is connected to the spatial metaphor. It will show the spatial metaphor. Okay, next slide is devoted to the role of embodiment in grammar. So the embodied theory of grammar suggests that much of our grammar, especially the way we organize action, events, and relationships, is influenced by our physical experience. For example, we conceptualize time as a spatial dimension, as seen in expressions like the future is ahead of us, or the past is behind us. This conceptualization is rooted in embodied experience. We tend to move forward in look back in time. Okay, let's see. The future is ahead of us. The future is ahead of us. Okay. The future is ahead of us. So you see, I have explained you that it is a layer of the language. It's the conceptual layer. Over here is reality, and here is our notion concerning the reality. So of course it happens. It's connected with the human being, anthropocentrism, and here is a, you may say, I over here, and of course, for example, time. Okay, let's do place and time. Okay. So what was about the future? Future is approaching, for example.
Ahead of us.
Ahead of us. The future is ahead of us. If you are here, it would be in front of us. Okay, but the past is behind us. So you see that it's a good form for the explanation of conceptual issues, because it is abstract, but with the help of this form, we can easily understand how it works. For example, if you say, I like a dog. So what? Here is a dog in the reality, and as a speaker, you are here in the center, and you're saying that I like a dog. So it works like that. Now, again, we go back. So let's continue. Okay, I have explained that the future is ahead of us and the past is behind us. This conceptualization is rooted in the embodied experience, and it is connected. We tend to move forward in space and look back in the time. It means that we have to look forward. It means that, for example, if we have done something, actions, it will connect with the part which is behind us. But if we look forward, if we are going to do something, it will show the future. You see, it works like that. Okay, next slide is called mental spaces and construction grammar. So, cognitive linguistics also views grammar through the lens of mental spaces. So, mental spaces are cognitive structures that allow the user to organize and represent information during language processing. These spaces help to represent hypothetical situations, counterfactual and complex conceptual relations. So mental spaces mean that I have already mentioned that they will go in our mind certain kind of process, and pay attention. It is next called mental space over there. So for example, in the sentence, if I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. So there are two mental spaces. It means that the first one, if I had studied harder, it would be first mental space. The second one, I would have passed the exam. Pay attention to these two issues. Okay, one representing the actual world where the speaker didn't study hard and didn't pass. So it means if you work harder, you will pass. If you do not work harder, there wouldn't be, you can't pass. So these two spaces is given over here. In the first one, not study hard and didn't pass. In the second one, if I had studied hard, I would have passed the exam. You see, in our minds, here's the mental spaces, and you can imagine that it is connected with the mapping and possible variation version of the reality can be understood in that mental space and then can be represented. It is connected with the mental space and how we construct the grammar. Okay. If we continue talking about the construction grammar, grammatical structures are treated as construction, form, meaning, carrying. that cannot range from the single word form to complex sentence structure. So, of course, in construction grammar, usually form and meaning, they always goes hand in hand. Just one can't be understood without the second. These constructions reflect generalization based on usage patterns in language. For instance, the subject-verb-object construction is fundamental pattern in English, where a subject performs an action verb on an object. This pattern is conceptualized as a construction with variations such as passive voice or question, representing different conceptual structures within the broader construction. So, you see, if you talk about subject-verb-object relation, these units are, all of them are, we may say, independent. So when we talk about just form, it will be symbolic one. The construction are symbolic and emergent in nature, meaning that their meanings are derived from the repeated content of the usage rather than from abstract rules. For example, the construction x, y, x, v, y, where x is a subject, y is an object, maps a generalized conceptualization of an event, where an agent x performs an action v on the patient. So, in this symbolic kind of construction, we see that there is a four units. If we say a dog, barked, so, you see here that x is a subject, verb is the action of the subject, and the y is an object over here. Okay, next slide is connected with the prototype theory. Okay, what is the prototype theory? Prototype theory is another key aspect of conceptual foundation of grammar. Is prototype theory, which suggests that categories and concepts are organized around the prototypes and most representative and typical members of the category. In this case of grammar, this theory helps explain how speakers categorize different grammatical structure or word meaning. Just imagine what is a prototype. Of course, if you pay attention to the word itself, prototype, just you have to divide into the small unit, type and proto. You see, it is connected to the type of the, for example, certain object or phenomenon, or for example, unit. For example, if we talk about the women, in a previous class I have given this example. If we talk about the women, the prototype of a woman for everyone is our mother. So, then possibly you will meet your neighbor's grandmother, beloved girl, and others, but for all of them, prototype is your mother. So, this prototype is connected to that. And here is another example given here. For example, in the category of verb, a prototypical verb might be run, as it involves a clear agent perform an action in specific dynamic way. Other verbs like know, believe might be considered less prototypical because they involve more abstract and less dynamic forms of agency. This notion of the prototype implies various areas of grammar, including word classes, sentence structures, even tense aspect marking, where meanings are not always categorical, but can involve shapes of meaning. Prototype theory also helps explain how meaning can expand through metaphorical mapping or conceptual shift, as discussed in the section radio category. For example, the word give can be used in the variety of context, but its core sense involves physical transfer, while its more extended meanings, such as giving advice, giving a speech, involve metaphorical and abstract transfer. So, if we talk about another example, for example, give, as it's given over here, you just give, it means transferring one thing into, for example, if I'm giving anything to the second person, I'm transferring any order. So you see, the first core meaning is that it expresses the notion transferring something, but other meanings they radiate goes further from the core meaning, and for that reason we call it prototype theory. And of course, for example, if you talk about the game, you see prototype would be game itself, but games can be divided into several types. For example, games which is connected with the ball, games which is connected with the, for example, water, games which is connected with indoor sports, for example, indoor games, or outdoor games. They all, for all of them, prototype is game, but others are radiating from the game. Okay. If we talk cognitive link, if we talk about the foundation of grammatical relations, cognitive linguistics propose that grammatical relations such as subject, object, and agent are not arbitrary, but are deeply rooted in how humans conceptualize events and actions. Grammatical rules reflect our understanding of the roles participants play in a given situation. For example, the subject in the sentence typically represents the agent or doer of an action. As in, the cat chased the mouse, where the cat subject is an agent performing an action. Pay attention that in grammatical structures, for example, here is the agent, doer of an action, and the second one is an action itself, because but pay attention that sometimes in some, if you pay attention to some word, that word come out from the subject. For example, I kicked. So it means that action kicking is coming out from I. But it's not connected with the object. Of course, you are kicking the object, but that action is not coming out from the object. But some words usually express kind of action which comes out from the object, not the subject. So you see that relations are usually expressed in the structure. Over here, for example, the cat is an agent, which chase the mouse. The mouse is the object over here. The cognitive linguistics also emphasize that these roles can shift depending on conceptualization of them. Even in passive construction, the mouse was chased by the cat. The subject of the sentence takes on a different conceptual role, highlighting patience or affecting entity of an action rather than the agent. This reflects the flexible, meaning-rather nature of the grammatical relations, which are grounded in our cognitive process. You see, if we are talking about the passive form of a sentence, over there, the doing of an action is not important, but the object itself or the action is important. For that reason, we construct passive voice of an event. So in that way, we construct the sentence structure. So conclusion: the conceptual nature of grammar, we call our conclusion the conceptual nature of grammar. So in conclusion, cognitive linguistics offers a dynamic, meaning-oriented approach to grammar that contrasts with more traditional formalized view. Of course, you see, in cognitive grammar, we understand the structure of the language, not static, set, but it is dynamic, meaning-oriented, and all the time it is flexible, and we can rearrange the order of the sentence. And for that reason, it's called dynamic and meaning-oriented. It means that when we are constructing a sentence, we are constructing meaning. We are oriented on forming a meaningful kind of sentence. For that reason, it is quite different from the traditional linguistic approach. So it emphasizes the conceptual foundation of grammar, suggesting that grammar is inherently linked how we perceive, conceptualize the world. By grounding grammar, okay, again, pay attention that again, perceive, or here is a key word, perceive and conceptualize. Grammar come out from the how we perceive the reality, then conceptualize the reality. In that way, we form the sentence structure. By grounding grammar in embodiment, mental space, prototypes, and construction, cognitive linguistics provides a rich framework for understanding how language structures reflect human thought and experience. The relationship between grammar and meaning is not arbitrary, but it's shaped by our mental representation, cultural context, and physical interaction with the world. Of course, pay attention that not arbitrary. Everything in language is meaning. Before entering a speech, even the full stop, some rearranging some units in the sentence, it impacts on the meaning, and for that reason, in our mind goes certain kind of process which is oriented to the formation of the meaning. And of course, if you do not use a full stop format properly, the meaning would be changed. And for that reason, everything is not that everything in language meaning. And of course, that embodiment, mental space, prototype theory, construction, help us to understand the language structure. And it is all for today's lecture. And here the references concerning the our today's lecture, and I would like to speak about one more thing. Okay. Okay. You see, if it just made them here, I say, sit down. Okay, sit down. You see, how many units over here? Two. Sit and down. Okay. Sit. Action. Is it? It is the. Okay. Generally, when we construct, when we organize our idea short notion, we usually construct it according to a certain kind of rule. General notion, and the second one is specific notion. So if we say that I have taken a shower, so where is the subject of this sentence? Are. Okay, how many notions over here? One, sure. What about this one?
It's action.
Okay, how many parts over here?
Two parts.
General notion, take specific notion. Okay, I generally it expresses a person. Specifically, it's a speaker. You see? And take a shower. Shower, what is it?
It's an object.
Now, general.
Okay, why I'm telling this? So here's a certain kind of expression. For example, have a book. For example, have a book. Do you know the meaning of the word have?
Yeah.
It is possession. It expresses possession. A book is an object. A book. We are possessing a book. It has both general notion. The second one is a specific one. But in order to know the meaning of a have, how many words should be understood? For example, have a rest. Does it express again possession over here? No. Have express the
Sleep.
action. Action. And rest is a coming noun, specific notion. In expressing specific notion. Generally, in our mind, we organize everything in that way. Just look at it. Have possession and have action. Generally, both of them express what? Kind of Stay or what? It is verb. Yes, you are right. It's a verb. But it expresses general notion, not clear one.
Yes.
But above or address, it specifies the notion which we, for example, we are expressing. Just take any piece of, for example, writing and try to analyze it. Now, for example, if we say an interesting book, pay attention, book is general over here. Interesting is specifying. And it is specifying again a book. So here's the two adjectives. Book is a noun, and interesting, they are specifying the book. In the first, ad is an article, as you know. It is specifying. Interesting is an adjective. It is as well specifying the book. Yeah, it's a feature of the book. It means an interesting book, one interesting book. But if you talk about the verb, how to say, action, driving fast. So drive is a verb. ING over there, for example, ING is giving specific information that that action is happening at the present time, and fast even specifying the action. It is adverb. Generally, pay attention. For example, drive is general notion. ING is giving specific notion. Fast as a specific notion. I am driving fast my car. So a car is an object. So my car, my is a specific notion. Generally, if we write it on the blackboard over here, I am driving my car fast. So, and is connected with I or driving.
No, M.
And what about this? So, look. I again would be the subject of a sentence, doing of an action. It expresses general notion. And in this sentence, it is expressing specific. It is the doing of an action. So, am is an
auxiliary.
It's auxiliary. Drive is a general notion. General, it expresses action, general notion. ING and specifying, and the fast as well specifying. Specific notion, and it is general notion. And it is verb. It is subject. And over here is object. You see, as well we have specific notion and general. This is all, you see, when we construct the sentence, our mind goes such kind of process, and it helps us to organize our thoughts, our notion concerning the reality, and ideas, and then it goes to the language layer. And I hope that you have gained something from today's lecture. Can I see you next time?
Thank you for your lecture.